When I tell you that I knew absolutely nothing about laser engraving, I mean it. Absolutely nothing. My experience level was somewhere between none and I might actually burn the garage down. But I decided to go ahead and take the plunge into the Falcon A1 anyways. And I was shocked at how quickly I went from being a complete newbie to making laser engraves that were professional looking. This video is me sharing my journey, the good, the mistakes, and everything that I wish I had known before I did this. My first pleasant surprise was the setup because it basically comes already pre-assembled right out of the box, so you can basically just plug it in and start playing. No tools, no hours of bolting things together, it just lives straight out of the box, plug it in, and you're ready to start. So you have your on and off here for the machine, your Type-C to plug into your software. Then you've got your air inlet here hose that goes to this pump that blows air straight on to your workspace to keep all of those pieces of wood cleaned off so that you have a clean workspace. You have a lock key so that you can lock the whole thing so kids can't come out here and press buttons and turn stuff on. You have your start project button here. You have an emergency start and stop button here. And then obviously you've got a power supply right here. And then you've got the hose in the back that you can blow out because this is a closed system. The software setup was super straightforward. You just download the program, you connect your USB, then you press start and you're in. But here's where I hit my first snag. So the Falcon A1 connects with a USB cord, and I found out the hard way that the long USB runs do not work very well. My first thought was to run a cord from the garage into my office in the house, but that was quickly found out that was not going to be an option. So right now I'm having to leave my laptop in a very dusty work garage. And the worst part is it is the middle of summer in the South and it is disgustingly hot and miserable out here. So that's definitely not ideal. My fix is that I'm going to convert this old PC back here to a dedicated Falcon machine here, and I can actually control it remotely from my laptop inside. I think that's going to make everything much easier and I'm not going to melt. For my very first projects, I used the already set up sample designs that come with the Falcon A1. And honestly, that made getting started so much easier and helped me learn a lot faster. Since my daughter was helping me set up the machine and she was out here when I was getting ready to start my first project, and she's absolutely unicorn obsessed. There was no question what her first project was going to be. She's absolutely in love with this thing and plans on painting it and hanging it up in her room. And that's when I made my first really big beginner mistake. I did not realize how important a honeycomb bed for this thing would be. Without one, your material just sits flat against the base of the machine, and when you cut, the laser burns straight through, and it ends up leaving a mark. So now my very first project is permanently etched into the base of my Falcon A1, and in the shape of a unicorn. There's a couple other projects mixed in there as well. My daughter thought it was the best thing ever, and she sees no problem with there being a unicorn permanently in my machine. So what does a honeycomb actually do? It actually lifts your material up off the bottom of the machine. It lets air pass through and it lets the laser pass through so it doesn't etch your design into the bottom of the machine permanently. If you're planning on doing any kind of cutting, not just engraving, a honeycomb bed is exactly the type of must-have item you're going to want to get. Even with our mistake, watching our first design was super exciting, and she is so happy with this. After I started playing around with the Falcon's designs, I started branching out and looking for designs online. But here's the thing. Finding designs is easy. There's thousands of files out there that you can download. The tricky part is finding free designs, ones that you can use commercially. I did engrave a couple of things that I didn't need a design for necessarily. My son's birthday is in 2 days and he is obsessed with green, so I printed a couple of things to kind of stick in the top of his cake. If you're thinking about just engraving things for yourself or for gifts, then you'll have no problem with it. You'll never run out of options. But if you're thinking about selling products, then you're definitely gonna have to be more careful. I quickly learned that free designs are usually for personal use. So if you want to start a side hustle with this, then you're going to want to invest in proper commercial use files. Or as I want to do is turn AI art into something that I can use with the laser engraver. That said, just pulling random designs off the internet and getting them tested and testing them was a huge step forward. And then you end up with something really cool like this. This definitely gave me the feeling that I wasn't stuck in the starter box anymore. Now here's the part where I really had to slow down and focus. It's the software. The machine itself is simple. You just plug it in, start it, and you go. But the software is where the real learning curve comes in. You need to learn how to import files. You got to resize them, place them on the workspace, and then use the Falcon's HD camera to line everything up. There are a lot of buttons and settings, and if you're brand new, it's not obvious what everything does. But once I started to experiment, something just clicked. The moment I realized I could take a random image, line it up on the camera preview, and actually engrave it where I wanted, that's where I felt like this was going to be way easier than I had thought. Dialing in your settings is really where the magic happens. I noticed a huge improvement in my projects once I started taking the time to test things properly. And the trick is to take a small section of your image, run a few test engravings, trial and error style, until you find the perfect combo of speed, power, and resolution. Trust me, it's worth it. I once wasted over an hour on a full photo that ended up looking nothing like I expected, just because I skipped the testing step. So that is a lesson learned. After I got comfortable with the software, I finally felt ready to start tackling my own custom projects. The first one I did outside of the Falcon One's built-in library felt amazing, and I started testing out on a bunch of different plywood. There's something different about knowing you brought in your own design and you set it up and you made it happen. So as I mentioned earlier, these are my own design, and then my husband's favorite picture of me, he wanted memorialized in wood. See how I tested out just these little sections here to see how deep I wanted the engraver to go, and gotten all the sections planned out, did a practice run, and then that was the final product. At this point, I was engraving wood and experimenting with metal, which actually turned out a lot better than I thought. Just let the paint dry first before you touch it, because I did smudge it a little bit. I have another one drying in the back right now where I did multiple layers of different colored paints, and I plan on doing a multi-layered design. So you'll be able to see all the different layers, and that we're going to work on here in a little bit. So let me highlight the two biggest beginner mistakes that I've made so that you can just skip them. First, if you don't want the base of your machine to become a forever memorialized art project from your first cuttings, get a honeycomb bed. Trust me, you are going to want one of those, and it's going to be very helpful in the long run. It'll give you cleaner cuts, and it's going to prevent scorch marks from engraving itself into the bottom of your machine. Mistake number 2, not thinking ahead about the USB connection. This machine works really, really great, but you are tied to this USB port. Long cables are not going to cut it, so go ahead and plan out your setup now. Whether that means bringing a laptop out to use the machine every time you want to use it, or going ahead and getting a dedicated PC set up in your workshop, that's a problem you're going to want to solve early. Now that I've gone through the basics, I am so excited about what's next. There are 2 things that I have on my list that I've been dying to try. First, it's taking AI-generated art and turning it into engravable files. I didn't even know that that was a thing until recently, and I'm so excited to try that. The idea of just combining AI-generated art with the laser engraving is just way too cool not to try. The second thing is doing inlays. I've always wanted to do inlays. I thought that you had to use a CNC machine to do that type of stuff, but it turns out you can use a laser engraver too. So that is definitely going to be on my list. Looking back, it's wild to think about how I went from absolutely knowing nothing about laser engraving to taking on real projects with the Falcon A1. The Falcon A1 made the hardware part so easy, and the software, while challenging, was definitely worth the time and effort that I put into learning it. If you're a beginner thinking about starting, here is my advice. Start with sample designs, get a honeycomb bed right away, and don't be afraid of the software. A couple hours of practice and you'll be up and running in no time. If you're ready to dive in and pick one of these up, I'd really appreciate it if you use my link. It will support my channel at no cost to you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'd love to know what's something that you would want to know before buying your first laser engraver. Drop it in the comments.